Hi everyone, I'm Desiree Brown, and you guys are listening to the Young Eager Writers podcast. I'm here with Michael Evans, who's a great friend of mine. He helps me with everything under the sun with the U organization. So, Michael, if you just want to introduce yourself for the audience.
Well, thank you. My name is Michael Evans. I'm the author of 3 books right now, soon to be 6 in a couple months. I'm releasing a new series soon. Summing up in a few sentences, I love to tell stories. That's pretty obvious. I love going to abandoned buildings. I love sunsets. I just love sunsets. I take pictures of sunsets all the time. Like running. I love going to forest. I'm pretty much... It's not that I'm not a people person. I love people, but I don't like being around a lot of them. So I like the woods, anywhere rural. So I'm lucky I live in South Carolina where there's not a ton of people. Used to live in Long Island. There's a lot of people. I have a fluffy golden doodle named Sky. She's really cute. And as Desi saw earlier, she's hyperactive in a funny way. But yeah, besides that, that's a little bit about me. I can go on for days about talking about, I guess the weird stuff about me and what I do, but we'll talk about my books today because that's what you guys are interested in.
And I do want to say for people watching and listening, Sky's going to come home with me. She's going to be my dog from now on because she's adorable. So, Michael, I have a few questions here that I'd like to ask you, and we've talked about some of this stuff before, but I think it's important to address.
Definitely.
So the first thing that I think is so important, and I've talked about this a little bit with other writers I've interviewed, time management. You have published so much, before even graduating high school, which is incredible. Can't believe it. How did you manage finding time to write as well as continue on with your school?
Well, my biggest first tip would just be to limit use of social media and to limit electronic use. I think that the number one thing that people don't realize that they're wasting their time on is they'll watch YouTube or scroll through Instagram and it might only feel like 15 minutes. But if you do that twice a day, that's a half hour gone. Half hour writing is around... For me now, it's anywhere between 500 words on a bad day, it could be 1,000 words on a good day, which means that if I do that for a month, I'm really behind in writing a novel, really behind. So I guess my number one tip would be cutting out those habits because even writing at a faster pace and writing better work just requires more time to write. And if you only take a half hour a day, that's actually really awesome. I usually only took an hour to an hour and a half on weekdays, and it was really probably closer to an hour most days. But the biggest tip that in literally an hour a day, just working consistently, I was able to publish 3 books. I guess 4 novellas too, but no one cares. And either way, I outputted a lot. I wrote a lot and did a lot with the publishing side, and it was really only on average an hour a day. So I think it's making that time for that hour and at least start at that half hour. And I guarantee everyone watching this can cut out a half hour, even if it's when you wake up. I don't know if you press the snooze. If you press snooze when you first wake up and get 15 minutes of extra sleep, the extra sleep isn't going to do you any good because you're not going to go into REM. So if you get your day started earlier, can you maybe wake up 15 minutes earlier than that, get a half hour of writing in, and then go to bed a little bit earlier so you're getting your sleep in still? I don't know. It's whatever works best for you.
Well said. I think really those parts about making sacrifices. I mean, I'm a big Netflix watcher, and I'd love to sit and watch another rerun of that 70s show.
Yeah, that's a good show. Yeah.
Right? But
yeah, flip side of things too. And this is one of my weaknesses. I sometimes don't take the time to have downtime, and that's not good either. There has to be balance. And I think we're all always going to struggle with that. You're never going to have the perfect balance in your life, but it's important to recognize when one thing is pulling away a little bit too much, and you have to go through your priorities. And the first priority is always your own mental and physical health. So if something's pulling away from that, even writing, you have to dial it back. But then for me, at least, behind my family, my mental and physical health does come writing. Then it's if anything needs to pull away from that, I make sure I shift the balance of my time back into favor of writing.
And I think it's important to note that I assume you get this too, like I do, of moments where you might not want to write that day. Like you were saying, you have to keep pushing. So I think you should love writing. Absolutely. But there are days, there's days where maybe for school, I have to write a poem, and a part of me is maybe I should just watch that 70s show. But it's important because there are many times where I almost didn't sit down and write a poem, and then I did, and then I loved it. I got through that hump of, oh my God, what am I doing? Can I actually write something good? And then I wrote. And then, so I think it's important, we go through those stages where, it's tough. But you are saying the difference is you push through it.
Exactly. It's that same thing with anything in life. And for a lot of you watching, most of you probably are enrolled in school, and if not, at least that's what I can relate to, because I spent most of my life enrolled in school. And when you're enrolled in school, you're told, and it is kind of simple, there's a path of you get good grades, you do well in your SAT and ACT, you get into a good college, you get good grades there, you get a good job. And that sounds like a really boring path to me. That's why I do the writing thing. But it's the same principle there. And with anything you do, if you go home, do your homework each night, just do what you got to do. Whether you like it or not, you just do it. You're going to find success there. Now, whether that success is what you want and whether you have a passion for that, that's the question. And I'm not saying you need to spend your time studying all the time or writing all the time, but I do want you to spend all the time you have doing what you love. That voice in your head telling you you can't do well, that you can't write a good book, just tune it out. Just let yourself truly believe, I am a storyteller and I'm a freaking good one. And even if you aren't today, like by any objective measure, if you keep writing every day and keep thinking that, you will be.
That's very true. I agree. You need to block out the bad voices and just listen to the good ones. One of the things I would love for you to talk about is the self-publishing avenue of what that process is like. So specifically, if I had a manuscript ready, what are the steps I have to go through to self-publishing?
When you say you have a manuscript ready, like you finished it and you've edited it yourself, or
either.
Okay.
Maybe I haven't yet. Yeah,
that's good. I'll start from there. So if you are sitting at home in your room, like me, you're in your room a lot, and you've written a manuscript, whether it's 10,000 words or 150,000 words, which, by the way, 150,000, that's a big freaking book, but good for you. So first, you got to go through an edit. You can't even think about what you're going to do next before you have a great book. The best story you can tell. Frankly, looking back at it, I've written close to 1 million words by now. And not all of them are published. A lot of them will never be published. Some of them are going to be published. And my first couple 100,000 words are atrocious compared to where they are today. At least that's my opinion. Writers are really hard on themselves. I think everyone is. But so I'm not saying it's going to be your best book ever. But the best book you can write in that moment, once you're there. And I'm not going to go into the boring process of editing. I personally don't like editing. But that would take a while to get into the specifics. But if you go to, if you have YouTube, or if you're watching this on YouTube, on the Young Eager Writers channel on YouTube, I have a writing series of writing tips where I discuss a lot of this in more detail. So it's not that I'm like saying I'm never going to talk about it. Just go look there, and I promise it'll be helpful. Your next step, actually, like most people think, oh, how can I get my work out to the world? What I messed up was that was my first step. How can I get it out to the world? And my first book ended up being released into the world not the best it could be. So I re-released it. Fine, I'm happy that I did that. But to save you that time and money or hardship or pain, whatever, go get other people to read it. My biggest advice is to go find beta readers and not have it just be your family and friends. Although let them read it too. Like actually, let them read it. You might think like, why would anyone want to read my book? Like when it's not even professionally edited yet. Like I'm no one. That's actually the point. Because you haven't written a book yet, people are so excited to try and find like, my God, maybe I'll be like one of the first people to read like what's going to be the next big book or the next big author one day. Once you do that and get people to read it, and there's no magic number. But once you get some feedback, you're going to 100% of the time have things to improve. And maybe even a full rewrite, maybe minor things, wherever you're at, do it. And once you do that, then you could think about when you have this manuscript, okay, what's the next step? And then that's where me personally, I chose to go and self-publish my book. And it really depends on where I think your where your mindset is as an author. For me, I'm super entrepreneurial. I love business and I love being my own boss. I pretty much have always had a vision of building a brand larger than just books, and not getting into details of that because that'll really bore you guys. But essentially, I've always wanted to do something my own and get my work out there on my own to a larger audience. And there's just a part of me that has this entrepreneurial spirit, has always wanted to start my own company, and to figure out that I could start a company around my passion in books. That's been the coolest thing to me. Self-publishing is a great and viable route to sell books online, meaning ebooks, but selling print books is just not great to do at scale through self-publishing. And that's where traditional publishers are a great solution. But if you can create a great story, no matter which route you go, you're going to have to do some marketing. You're going to have to do some work outside of writing. But no matter which route you go, if you create a great story, people are going to want to read it and it's going to sell. Whatever works best for you and whatever matches your goals, and knowing that it can change from book to book is the super awesome, really career being an author. It's not like you're tied down to one thing ever. With each book and with each new idea, you can choose how you want to get it out there. And in the future, there'll be even more ways to get your books out to the world, which is super exciting. And either way, you can really do really well, and there's amazing people, both sides of the industry. And at the end of the day, although people make it out to seem like it's a competition, really they're working together. And books are competing against Netflix. You're competing against video games, everything else that takes your time away. So the book industry is really like a collective force of people trying to tell awesome stories and deliver it to people all over the world. And wherever you find your place in it, I think is awesome. There's no wrong way to go. My first thing is just tell the story.
If you're interested in listening to the full version of this interview, you can find it at youngeagerwriters.org.